hear me, Pupito?
Stop staring at me. You're giving me a complex. I'm trying to blend.
Well, if you can hear me, can you change to the color of this table?
What do you think you're doing?
I think he understands me.
Well, if he understood me, I'd tell him how sick I am of all these stupid animals.
Oh, that really hurt. Well, if you could understand me, I'd tell you to do something about those dander flakes. It's looking like Christmas in July.
I hate this place.
So young, so angry. Damn that rap music.
Welcome back to another episode of Front Row Cinema, a movie podcast for movie lovers by movie lovers. I am your host, TJ and with me, as always, is my animal doctor in training here, Mr. James O'Reilly.
How's it going, buddy?
It's going. And each week we run down a movie from my 1,000 movies in theaters and we see how well it's aged, along with the hype surrounding the film, its box office analysis, and legacy in the film industry. Jim, what are we watching tonight?
Dr. Dolittle 2.
That's right, the 2001 comedy Dr. Dolittle 2, directed by Steve Carr and starring Eddie Murphy as the titular doctor. Now, as always, we turn to our lovely flap jacket here to dive into the lovely little logline that they have on the back for us. But I think, Jim, you said today that you had a pretty good explanation for Dr. Dolittle 2.
The Scorpion King is a movie based on the character of the Scorpion King.
Yeah,
Well,
it's a movie about Dr. Dolittle.
Dr. Dolittle 2 is a movie about the character of Dr. Dolittle. Yeah, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. We turn to our flap jacket here. Superstar Eddie Murphy is back as Dolittle, the beloved doctor with the critter communicating talents. This time around, Dolittle plays Cupid to a bumbling circus bear to help a group of forest creatures save their habitat. With the aid of his mangy madcap animal friends, Dolittle must teach this overgrown Teddy the ways of true romance in time to save his species and his home. That is so pun-filled. We've been missing out on the good pun-based DVD covers, and this one
Yeah.
back with a vengeance. Uproarious. Get out of
Yeah,
here.
that did not disappoint. That's what a DVD jacket should sound like.
Absolutely. With the great tagline on the front, a treat for the whole family. See what you did there. Treat animals. They like treats. I see.
Yeah. Yeah, I followed that for sure.
They were going pun heavy on this one. What a movie to really dive into this week here, Jim. We tend to every now and again, we talked about this a little bit last week's episode, where we have these big, huge, great movies that we were seeing when we were kids, and then there's these lesser ones that kind of slip in through the cracks where we're like, oh, what did we watch last week? We're like, yeah, we're watching Castaway, or we're watching The Mummy Returns. Like, what are we watching this week? Oh, we gotta watch Dr. Dolittle too.
Yeah, and I was not shy last week about how I felt with needing to watch Dr. Dolittle 2.
That's true. You really wore your heart on your sleeve for that one. I as well. I don't think either of us are really looking forward to watching this one, which made it so much funnier during the week when we texted each other about watching it. And it was the complete different reaction than we would have expected texting each other about it.
Yeah, this is one where, yeah, I remember when I was a kid, this came out, and I was probably a little still too cool for school, you know? I was, like maybe 11 years old? 12 years old when this came out, so it wasn't cool in my book. I was like, Dr. Dolittle 2, psst, you know. But now that I'm a grown up and I'm not too cool for anything, you know, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's just like I had a lot of fun this week.
Yeah, it was surprising. This was definitely a surprising one to dive into. When it was funny, our thoughts about it when you texted me going, I don't know if it's just that I just saw the Iron Claw and I needed a good pick me up, and this one was right there to come along at the right time.
Yeah.
And then I texted you back where I had the same thing, but I was like, I don't know if I'm just really high, but this movie's really striking the chord with me right now. And I don't want anyone out there
Yeah.
to think that this movie is going to get higher marks with me because, I watched this one, under the influence, because spoiler alert, I watch all my movies under the influence.
Whoa. Startling confessions.
Startling confession. Hey, it's legal in New York, all right? I can talk about
Oh,
it.
yeah, totally. Yeah, no, so I don't know. I'm still not sure if I liked it more because what I did the day before was watch one of the most depressing movies I've ever seen. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I liked it. It was delightful.
But either or, even if that was true, that you did enjoy it maybe more than you would have another day because of the Iron Claw, it shows that that movie did what it wanted to do, which was just put a little smile on your face for 80 minutes.
Yeah, and it sure did.
It sure did. Jim spoke just a second ago about him being a kid being too cool for school. So obviously we know Jim did not go see this one in theaters. I, however, was not too cool for school back then. I still went and saw Doctor. I was 12 years old, also still going to see Doctor
Oh,
Dolittle too.
don't get me wrong. I saw Doctor Dolittle too with my dad and my younger siblings. I just hated every second of it.
I did, however, go see it. I went to the theaters with Zach to go see it. And I don't know if this was maybe a movie where he wanted to go see it and I took him. Because obviously, we were a bit, this one is right on the threshold. We're a little bit on the older side where we were getting to that age where probably we wanted to see more Mummy Returns and less Dr. Dolittle too. But Zach,
Right.
was a few years younger than us. So that could have been a movie I was taking him to see. I don't remember the only I remembered about this movie, which goes leagues above to show how this bit is always a great bit to go to in movies. The only bit I remembered from this movie, going back to it, was Archie the bear having diarrhea with Eddie Murphy in the stall with him, which just goes
Yeah,
to show how good a poop joke always goes still to this day. That was the only thing that stuck with me from going back to this movie was I know
real
there's a poop joke in here.
real low hanging fruit on that one.
Exactly. But hey, low hanging fruit jokes still get we've established through many comedy episodes here, Jim, that I will laugh at just about anything. And poop humor is at the top of that list.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I didn't remember that particular part, but it's definitely, I probably won't forget it now.
Yeah, it's definitely one that will stick with us going forward. But enough about our memories of Dr. Dolittle 2. Let's dive into our favorite subject to always talk about when we come to these movies, and that is its lovely box office run.
Numbers, dates, numbers, numbers, dates. Hooray. Dates, numbers. Show me the money.
All right, so Doctor Dolittle 2 opens June 22nd of 2001. So its opening weekend runs through the 24th.
Right in the summer movie season, baby.
I think we may have a milestone here.
Okay.
I don't remember if we've ever had another movie not open number 1.
We didn't, because I also wrote this note down too that this was our first movie to not open number one.
Beat out by the Universal Pictures absolute instant classic, The Fast and the Furious.
See now, and Zach. So that would have been the movie I would have gone and seen that weekend.
Yeah, both opening weekend for both of them too.
Yeah, that's a twofer right there. And I chose Dr. Dolittle too.
Yeah, so Fast and the Furious pulls in 40, let's call it 40.1 million, and Dr. Dolittle 2 comes in at 25 million.
That is another milestone, at least for us here on the pod, because 25 million is the lowest opening we've had so far of any of the movies that we've done. That puts it in the last place, now behind the Rugrats movie, which opened at 27.3.
Wow. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
so bottom of the barrel opening weekend for what we have so far.
which is a shame because
Um
Dr. Dolittle 2 leagues in a way a better movie than the Rugrats movie.
yeah, way better. Way better. Which don't even get me started. I think we may have found the movie that's going to break the whole thing. But we'll talk about that later on. Uh Yeah, so no run at number 1 here. Opens at number 2. It stays in the top 10 for 7 weeks.
All right, so for a movie that opens on the low end, especially here in the pod, to be the lowest opening movie that we've done so far, it still has the average legs that you see in movies. 7 weeks is good enough to tie it with Armageddon, The Perfect Storm, and The Mummy Returns, which all sit also at 7 weeks.
Nice. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, that's a pretty good run. And I mean, it makes sense. It's got a kind of niche here, right? It's
Well, the
It's
question
like
would
the
be
family-friendly comedy that's out, right?
exactly. So the question is are there any other family movies out at this time? Because this would probably be a movie that would have good legs over the summer because it's the family movie to go see.
Yeah, I mean, Shrek is out this opening weekend, but it's in its sixth week. So it's kind of on its last legs, you know? I
Yeah,
mean, it
every
still pulls in Doctor Dolittle 2's first weekend, Shrek still pulls in 10.4 million. So it's still,
jeez.
it's still pulling in some business, but that's week 6. Um Shrek week 7 still pulling in 7.7, and then so there's another family friendly movie out, but it's been out for a while and it's still doing business, but it's not quite taking all of Dr. Doolittle's stuff.
Yeah, it's been around
So,
long enough that Dr. Dolittle has some room to breathe.
yeah, interesting side note, Dr. Doolittle 2's second week, Pootie Tang's opening weekend.
Oh boy. What did Pootie Tang open up to? Did Pootie Tang even open in the top 5?
Pootie Tang opened number 12 with 1.5 million,
Ah, poor Pootie Tang.
which is they would have had my $12, but I was a little too young. I had to wait for HBO.
Yeah, we were unfortunately just under the cusp for that gem.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, Doolittle 2, it stays in the top 5 for those first 3 weeks, and then or sorry, for those first 2 weeks, and then week 3 it pulls in 10.4 million. Still, I mean, Scary Movie 2 is out now.
Oh,
Shrek is still out, but it's losing steam. Atlantis is out. I missed that earlier. This is like week 5 of Atlantis, that Disney
also, it did
movie.
have another family movie, but I don't think Atlantis was like a classic box office bomb, right? I don't think that movie really did.
Yeah, I don't think it did very well. And it's also like it's a family movie, but it's more of like an adventure thing, you know what I mean? Like if you're looking to go to something silly, Doctor Dolittle
Yeah.
2 is probably still your pick. But so yeah, it stays in the top 10 for those 7 weeks. Week 8 it drops all the way down to 15th and it's basically fully out of steam.
Oh boy.
And just some totals here, finishes with 112.9 million domestic,
Okay.
63.1 million international, for a total worldwide total of 176.1 million.
That's not shabby right there. So while it comes in for opening weekend as the lowest opening weekend here, it's not the lowest worldwide gross we've had so far. That honor still goes to the Rugrats movie with 140.9. So 176 for Dr. Dolittle 2 is good enough to put it now in the 14th spot, right behind Scary Movie, and but right ahead of Pokemon, the first movie, which made 172. So it just eked past Pokemon, the first movie.
Yeah, and that Box Office Mojo has that against a budget of 70 million. So
So that's
that's
a
like
win.
that's like
That's
a that's like a
that's solid.
single, maybe not quite a double, but they're on base.
Yeah, I mean, box office wise, at least that's as good as you can hope for with something like that, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm interested to see. Let me look this up really fast.
I mean,
How
also,
did it?
still looking at it, Dr. Dolittle 2, 112 domestic. It's a blockbuster movie right there.
Yeah, I went to look up Doctor Doolittle's box office, and I got the Robert Downey Jr. movie. So, but okay, so to
Oh,
put
there's a
it
Dolittle.
in perspective, though, the original Doctor
Got it.
Doolittle movie finished with 294.4 million worldwide.
Damn.
So, I mean, it's a single, but it's they didn't quite get what they wanted out of this. Is my
Yeah,
guess.
they were hoping to get a little bit more, and that was definitely lower, but still respectable for the amount that you spent on it. And 112 domestic, that's more than the Marvels made domestically.
Yeah, I mean, okay, that's fair. That they are, yeah, you're not wrong. And that's also the first one that's against the $29 million opening weekend. So that's a pretty good multiplier for that movie too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So it gave itself a decent run there over the summer, especially over the summer. The playing ball in the summer is tough. And they did pretty well there for themselves. So good on you guys, Dr. Dolittle too. They really put the heart and soul into this movie.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, they
Didn't
did. I was looking trying to, learn some behind the scenes stuff and everything while we were doing this movie. And the extent that they went through in this movie to do a large majority of the scenes with these animals practically, very commendable. They went above and beyond to do as much of that in camera as possible. And of course they use, your camera tomfoolery, but it looks really good.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I didn't even honestly I didn't even think of that. But yes, like it never felt like fake or anything like that. It
Yeah.
always seemed like they were all right there with everybody.
And you have big scenes where there's like a plethora of different animals all in one shot. You're like, there's no fucking way they're all hanging around each other like that. Like, how did you do that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they all like gather together a bunch of times
Yeah.
when
And the fact that
when
they
they're
do it
watching
practically.
when they first meet Archie and they're like they introduce him to everybody and he comes out and starts doing his act.
Yeah. Or
they're
when he
they're like
goes,
they're like an audience.
yeah, or when he first goes to meet the beaver and there's like a bunch of different woodland critters, like all just standing around, hanging
Hey,
out.
hey,
It's
hey,
like
hey! Show some respect. That's the God Beaver.
so fucking silly. So silly. But yeah, I guess at this point we're deep diving in there, Jim. Let me hear it from you. What worked for you with this movie?
I mean, it really leaned into how silly it was, which I was a fan of. The voice acting I really liked. It wasn't like it was kind of weird looking. Maybe I mean not necessarily weird looking, but it was odd to see like the regular animals like no mouths moving and they just talk.
Well,
Which
I think the other funny thing to that point that you're making, especially when it comes to the voice cast, is the people that they got to do all the voice casting. Like we have this kids movie. We need a bunch of people to play these cast of characters, and we get a bunch of just like filthy stand-up comedians.
yeah. Well, yeah, no, that's what I'm getting into, right? I mean, so it was a little weird, but the voice actors were great. I mean, you have Norm Macdonald in there, just like being his best Norm Macdonald. He's not quite as silly as he is on his like podcast or anything like that, but in this movie, you definitely get that like sarcastic Norm Macdonald sense of humor, which I love when he's like, yeah, and when the cat's away, the mice will play. And by mice, I mean teenagers. It's just
Yeah.
such a Norm Macdonald joke, you know what I mean? And the way he delivers it is so funny. So he's great. Like they all had like really funny one-liners. And then I mean Eddie Murphy's amazing in this movie, right? Like there's no doubt about how good he is.
Oh yeah, this movie, Shrek, and this kind of era of him. He really honed in on that persona of his that worked so well on some of these, where he is this kind of like affable dad, but he has a bit of an edge to him still, but it's more like a dorky edge and not so much
Yeah,
like his stand-up edge where he's like just really filthy. It's
right.
it's more like he really understood becoming that dad humor-esque version of himself to really sell these. Like when he first meets the pizza guy who's like dating now his daughter, and
Yeah,
again,
yeah,
and he's
yeah.
just like he's like, "Don't worry, dude." And that's the amount that this movie still let everyone be pretty dirty also kills me, because when she storms off and they're like, we're having dinner together, and the kid's just like, don't worry, pops, I know what she needs, and like licks his lips and walks in, and it's like, what the fuck?
See, I didn't even pick up on that. Like the way I took that was like he was like, "Don't worry, I'll take care of her." Like and he was like taking the daughter away from Eddie Murphy. That's how I read that. I didn't even think about the licking his lips part.
He just has that bit about he's like rubbing his hands together like he's gonna start a fire, like he just seems so dastardly as he's walking in to take
Yeah.
over.
But dude, that whole sequence, man, right before the pizza guy gets there, when he takes away her cell phone and he's like looking through her contacts, he's like, Biggie Mac, who's Biggie Mac? I don't know
Oh,
about Biggie Mac.
that
He,
whole
like,
and it's the guy from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the
yeah,
dad.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he calls it and the kid's dad answers and they start screaming back and forth at each other. It's so funny, dude.
Oh, good. I was
Was
crying.
such a good bit.
That
And then
honestly,
that goes right into him opening the door with the pizza guy. That's like the
yeah,
next thing that happens. So he's on
I
fire in that beginning.
I think the first like 20 minutes of this movie is so damn good. Because like this
Yeah.
the setup is great where we're getting reintroduced to Dr. Dolittle, and and he's working with patients and with the animals. and you see just how stressed his life is because he has no minute to himself. Because even when he's coming home, there's people just hanging out outside trying to get him to look at his
Yeah,
animals. So
yeah.
he just has no peace and quiet. And even when he comes into his house where he's hoping to like still get it, he's also just at like an 11 constantly. Like I love when he's trying to get into his daughter Raven Simone's like room and he's out in the balcony. And as he's trying to get in, then just like the raccoon shows up. There's the drunk monkey. It's like
Yeah,
this
yeah.
dude just can't get a second to himself. And like he's just like, "What are you drinking?" He's like, "Ah, it's water." And he's like, "Let me smell that."
Yeah, it's so funny, dude. Yeah, and like it's you're right. They're constantly putting more and more pressure on him, which makes his whole shtick like 10 times funnier, you know?
Yeah, because you're just watching him just lose his shit the entire movie for the most part. Because he's
Yeah,
just this guy trying to not lose it. And every
dude,
time he just goes so over the top all the time. And he's so fantastic at pulling that off.
100%. You know who it reminds me of, or I should say who reminds me of it?
Wow.
Kevin Hart. He should be paying Eddie Murphy like royalty checks, dude.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember when we used to watch Real Husbands of Hollywood all the time?
Yep. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he's literally Kevin Hart is just playing Eddie Murphy in that show. Like, that's what he's doing. He's just
Yeah. He's
doing Eddie
really
Murphy's whole bit.
he's really taken the ball with that just on edge, about to snap persona, and just
Yeah,
consistently just throwing
exactly.
stress at him constantly, and then just watching him react to it. Like he really took the
Yeah.
ball with that, and he does good with it too. I like Kevin Hart.
Oh
He's
no, he's hilarious. And I think that's like a big part of why I like it more this time around. Cause I think when I was a kid, Eddie Murphy's bit was getting kind of old. And I was kind of like, all right, yeah, I get it, Eddie Murphy. And then since then, like Kevin Hart's kind of taken the ball and ran with it, like you said. And I really liked when Kevin Hart did it. And I'm like older and I kind of get it more now. So when I go back and watch it, I love it, you know?
Yeah, no, and it's fantastic because that whole just bit where he's dealing with the raccoon, trying to get to his daughter, doing the Biggie Mac thing,
Yeah,
dealing
yeah.
with the kid
Biggie
who's
Mac.
outside, and then having the dinner, and all that happens in like 5 minutes.
I know, yeah. It's
It's
so
one after the
crazy.
other. The raccoon is just like, it'd be great respect if you could come and see what my badger is. Like, listen, man, you got to make an appointment. You got to come into my appointment at 8 a.m. tomorrow. He's like, ooh, the beaver don't travel for nobody.
Yeah, and I mean, this is kind of silly to say about a movie like Doctor Dolittle too, right? But the way that like the pacing of it is so good.
Yeah.
Like you're
Oh,
saying, like it's all quick and funny, but at the same time, they're setting up so much conflict for the rest of the movie. Like him and his daughter are going to be at odds, and he promises her a vacation that a couple minutes from now he's going to pull right out from under her, you know?
yeah.
So she's not going to be happy the rest of the movie. That's going to be a constant thorn in his side, you know? And they're like setting up the God Beaver thing, which it's an obstacle for him to go talk to his daughter, but at the same time, it's about to become the central point of the whole plot, you know?
Yeah.
So
The
it's just
writer.
it's really well written.
It is. Yeah. Writer Larry Levin. I don't know if he's done anything else. We'll have to take a look into that later, but excellent, excellent work in that first act, just pacing that movie. And I love, it's same as you were talking about before. The biggest pro for me, too, in this movie is how absolutely silly it is and how much they lean into that silliness. Because I was so on board watching the movie when they got to that point where he's the whole movie you think it's going to be about him just trying to get that like stress reliever and connect with his kids, and then the raccoon shows up and he's acting like he's in the mafia, and he's like, "I need
Yeah,
you to come meet with my Don because we got a
yeah,
job for you." And of course it's like
yeah,
he's the only one that can do it because he's the only one that could speak to the animals, and of course like the animal, it's just like a mafiosa crew. I
yeah.
cried. I was
And
like,
it's
I'm
still that
so in.
whole
I'm so in.
all that stuff is so lined with jokes too. Like he's like telling the guy, he's like, tell him he's got to make an appointment, and the guy's like, oh, I'm not gonna tell him that.
Yeah, it's
Like,
like, oh,
he's like, that's not gonna happen. So
yeah,
yeah, no, it's hilarious that it's like a mafia family, and
yeah,
that's kind of what a big part of what makes this movie work for me is that it's still kind of silly, right? It's not like a really like serious movie, but they have enough of these little bits to just carry it across the finish line for 80 minutes where it's still like really funny like throughout the whole thing, you know?
yeah,
Like there's enough variety where even though it's kind of like sticky and like it's like, like having like the silly mafia boss isn't like really like anything. It's not really groundbreaking, right? But there's enough of those little things and little like that'll crack me up just a little bit that gets it over the finish line. Like, how about Pepito, dude?
Yeah, he's another one that's just like so silly.
Pepito
It's
from
such a
our
weird like
intro.
yeah, he comes back like Dr. Dolittle comes home from his trip and he's just got this iguana and they're just or a chameleon. And they're like, yeah, what if we just bring back a chameleon? And he just says the most ridiculous things you've ever heard. And you're like, yeah, like let's throw that in there.
Yeah, but like when he's like on the couch and he's like, "Look at me, I am the blend master. I will perfectly blend with every fiber." Like he's like getting so into it, and he just can't change colors.
He's so over the
I
top. And I
can
think that's
never
another
lose it.
funny thing or a little element to this movie is the fact that Eddie Murphy is the only one that can hear them. So as he has to go through every second of this, and each one of these animals is such a caricature, over the top, silly thing, it just adds to that stress because it's like you're trying to have a conversation with your wife, and here's this chameleon just being like, "I'm the blend master, like I can blend in with the fire," and you're just like, I can't even concentrate on what I'm supposed to be dealing with because I got this clown over here.
Yeah, or the monkey who's just like drinking wine all the time.
And also, like, then I love that they never explain it, but like, why is that monkey just hanging around his house all the time?
He might be from the first movie. I don't remember.
Maybe, yeah, that is true because I couldn't tell you a thing about the first movie. So, but it's also
Yeah.
just funny because like he's never in the house. He's always just like on the balcony or hanging out by the cabin.
Yeah. Well, so like for the first movie, I couldn't tell you a thing about it either. What I'm guessing it was him figuring out he could talk to animals and like
Yeah,
freaking out. And then like I guess getting to a point where people knew he could and it was okay. And then this one's such a good sequel to that because they really like stretch the premise of a doctor who can talk to animals and the whole world knows about it, just the hijinks that he'd get into.
yeah, just the absolute hilarity that does ensue. Because I love we're catching back up to him and we're seeing like what he's been up to in the interim since the first movie. And he's like, yeah, he does meetings for strays and it's almost like an AA
Yeah,
meeting where he's
yeah,
just like
they're like
sitting and they're all like
sharing, right?
sharing their story. It's like, hey, we got a family looking for somebody. And they're like, oh, Butch would like that. And like Butch is licking his nuts and like, never mind, Butch.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's so silly, and like just the fact that he's so legitimate that his wife, who I guess is a lawyer in the movie, I think, right? That's the idea.
Yeah.
His wife goes into court and they argue that they could rehabilitate this bear
Yeah.
and
That
get him out into the wild because we got Dr. Doolittle. It's so silly.
yeah, it's
And
such an absurd
the
premise.
judge is just like, that sounds good to me. I mean, what else? It's Dr. Doolittle. What can we do here?
Yeah. He's like, we'll give him 90 days. If he can't work it, then nobody can do this.
It's so ridiculous. Oh man. And then at
It's
the end when he's trying to convince the judge to let the weasel testify.
it's like, yeah, we have somebody, Your Honor. He was a witness there. Is he in this courtroom today? No, Your Honor. He's a
He's
weasel.
a weasel. Yeah, and we haven't even gotten to Steve Zahn yet.
I can play any kind of bear. I've got range, grizzly, panda, polar. Here, check out my polar. I am freezing.
Suzanne absolutely does have range.
Yeah. Yeah, he's hysterical, man. He's got some of the funniest lines in the whole movie.
He does. And
Like
that's another funny bit. It's just so absurd that it's just we're gonna rehabilitate this bear into the wild, but he's a circus bear, so he's all just about luxury and high class, and we gotta
yeah.
re-implement him into society, into the wild where he has to learn how to be a rugged bear again, but the girl bear's already got a boyfriend, so he's got to prove that he's just like rugged and tough. It's so
Yeah.
fucking silly. And one of my favorite bits of that when Dr. Doolittle's trying to show him how serious the situation is. They do like the scared straight where he locks him in like
Yes.
prison with two other bears. The bear's like, yo,
Yeah,
bro, you don't want none of this.
he's like, let me show you what happens if you don't get it done in the wilds. And he brings him to Scared Straight. It's so ridiculous.
Like it's
And
one of
then
those movies that has
the
so
scared the Scared Straight scene though, Dr. Doolittle's on the phone and like, they're scaring him straight and then Dr. Doolittle like walks away and talks on the phone for a minute. And then by the time he gets back, they're all just singing show tunes.
yeah.
It's so ridiculous, dude. Oh man,
It's
it's so
it's
good.
it's one of those movies that really understood the assignment. And it reminds me, obviously not to the level of being this good, because this is obviously the greatest family movie of all time, but it reminds me of that just like fun, lighthearted nature of Paddington, where it just knows
Oh
what it
yeah,
it knows what it needs to be, and it just works.
yeah. No,
Like, and obviously
right,
this one isn't,
exactly.
I'm not saying this one you could even compare the two, because Paddington 2 is like the greatest family movie
No,
of
yeah,
all
of
time.
course they're different. Yeah,
Yeah, but this movie knew what it wanted to do. It landed on all of those. There wasn't really a joke in this one that didn't work for me at any point while I was watching this movie. I was like, for this movie and what they're doing, all of this is working for me. It's just top notch.
yeah, yeah. It's no, I really, really, really enjoyed it. It was much better than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah,
Was
yeah.
anything you didn't like?
Again, it's hard to nitpick because it's supposed to be just like dumb, stupid humor. The funny thing is, the joke that worked least for me in this movie is the one that I remembered from being a kid, which is the poop humor.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, ah, I've
It
been there,
was
seen that.
it was pretty silly, yeah. But even then, it still had some good lines. Like, he's like, "Yeah, I realized I fell in love with what was the girl bear's name again? Lisa Kudrow's bear name?
Done.
I don't remember either." He's like, "Yeah, but I fell in love with her, but and also Cherry Garcia." like, like, just so silly.
Like, it's just a dumb comedy. So it's hard to like criticize, because it's like, at the end of the day, it's supposed to be a stupid movie. I think the one thing I can say, some of them work better than others. There's a lot of pop culture references in this. Some of them work and some of them don't work. Like, I'm very tired of seeing the Rocky reference where we just play Eye of the Tiger and they're training.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's fair.
Like, all right. Also, I don't know if you noticed this. The "What's up" joke from Budweiser returned in this movie.
Really? When? I didn't
Yeah,
even
there was a
notice.
scene early on. Honestly, I forget the scene, but I literally just wrote down on my notes as I was watching. It had to be. It was after the fake AA meeting for the Strays, because then that was my next note, was the "What's up" joke from Scary Movie and Budweiser returns. So there's a character that does the "What's up,"
That's
which is
hysterical.
fire.
I didn't even catch that.
And so that one returned.
Yeah.
I think the one pop culture reference that worked the best for me here is when they're first going in to do the scared straight joke with the bears, and they're walking down the prison row, and one of the animals in there just goes like, "Hello, Clarice." It's like the Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
that's a good one. That's a good one, because it's
That's a good one.
dark
Yeah.
horse that you wouldn't normally expect. It's the on the nose ones that I'm like, all right. It's like they do a Star Wars one where they say like use the Force at one point. It's like,
Right.
all
It's like, or like
right,
how every movie was doing like that Matrix bullet time
exactly,
motion, like
exactly.
back then. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like the really,
The
really played
over
out
the
ones.
overused, yeah, the played out ones, the overused ones, but the dark horse ones, like the Silence of the Lambs one, that one worked for me because that was a funny one that you don't see a lot.
Dude,
But
also, I thought Raven Simone was really great in this movie.
yeah, for playing the angsty teenager, and that's another
Yeah,
funny
right.
bit, that the whole movie, it's playing on the expectations that you think she's just going through puberty and wants, to have more of like her own agency and independence. But it's that she's just worried that she can also talk to animals, and she thinks it's going to
Yeah.
make her also a freak, which is a hilarious, if you want to say allegory. I might be thinking too deep here for Dr. Dolittle too, but for, like
Uh-oh.
hitting puberty.
Oh yeah, right. Like she's like, yeah, it's kind of like Teen Wolf, only instead of turning into a wolf, you learn how to talk to animals.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, she was great. There was a couple of that guys in this movie.
Oh, dude, I was waiting for you to bring that up. That a couple, Jim, there are a lot of that
Yeah,
people in this movie. This
yeah,
movie is chock full of, and also just like some random people that just show in to say one line as an animal and then fuck off and disappear.
yeah. Cedric the Entertainer is billed as the second star on IMDb. You want to know what he's credited as?
Like, isn't he one of the scared straight bears? He's just like bear
Yeah,
number
he's
three.
Zoo Bear number one. I don't
That's
even know if
see,
that's one of the scared straight bears, honestly. I just know
I
it's like Zoo Bear number one.
Oh, it is because I remember that scene, and I love that's a scene that works great too because they're like, we're gonna have like the scared straight bears. Who should be the bears in there? And they get pretty much most of the guys from the movie Friday. Like it's like what's Singleton, not Singleton, Witherspoon. John Witherspoon's one of them.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cedric the Entertainer is one of them. It's
Yep.
it's so funny. Isaac Hayes is the possum that rolls with the
Oh yeah,
beaver.
yeah, yeah. Right, right. That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you got
Kevin Pollock.
yeah, I love that Kevin Pollak also plays like the skeezy lawyer and then also plays like a voice character also in it.
Yeah, dude. Andy Richter is in this movie.
Yeah, he's one of the animals, right? Which animal is
Yeah,
he
well,
again?
he's credited as Eugene Wilson, but I think he was one of the animals because I didn't remember seeing him in it.
Yeah, I think he's one of the I forget which animal he is, but I know he's also one of the I love that Lisa Kudrow's boyfriend bear is Mike Epps.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's great.
He's
And
so
then
silly.
we got a repeat one here.
We have a returning that guy. This is our we had, which is funny because now it's almost like a 6 degrees of separation because for the perfect storm we had that guy William Fickner. William Fickner returned as that guy in Armageddon, which starred that
Oh
guy Ken Campbell, Max from Armageddon, who returns now in this movie as that
yeah,
guy.
Max from Armageddon. He plays the Santa Claus in Home Alone.
Yeah, yeah. So it's funny how it's hopscotching
Yeah, we're
movie to
playing
movie,
like
returning that guy.
6 degrees of that guy.
Yeah,
So,
six
like,
degrees of that guy. Isn't the
yeah.
Weasel
Oh.
like Andy Dick? One of the guys.
Maybe.
Yeah, I know Andy
I
Dick
didn't
is
pick
one
that
of
one out.
them.
There's another one in
Mandy
here that's a
Moore
little
plays one of them. They're all over the place. I
dude,
think
does she?
yeah, she's one of those ones that plays says one line and then you don't, and then that's it, and you don't hear from her again.
Yeah, it's like
Same
like
goes for
real
Arnold
cameo.
Schwarzenegger, who shows up for one scene as the
Oh
wolf.
yeah, he was really noticeable though, yeah.
Yeah, well,
He was
I
really
mean,
noticeable.
it's hard not to notice Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice. I think though the worst of that guy we could talk about, probably that guy that we hope to never have to talk about again. Everybody's least favorite pedophile, Jeffrey Jones.
I knew I was like waiting for him to come up. It's like, ooh, that's ooh, Jeffrey Jones, ooh.
Jeffrey Jones, oh you bastard.
Yeah, so we missed a pretty good piece of trivia for this one that I
Okay.
forgot about. The bear who plays Archie the bear,
Okay.
his name's Bart the bear. And we honestly, you know what? I think we're gonna bring this up in IMDb deep dive. Is I think what we're gonna do.
Is
When we
Bart
get
the Bear's
there,
other filmography?
we're gonna do Eddie Murphy and we're gonna do Bart the bear. That's what's gonna happen.
Amazing. I mean, if you're pulling it out, he must have quite an eclectic filmography. So I'm super excited to see what other movies Bart the Bear has lent his acting talents to, because he's quite the character actor in this movie.
He might be on par with Tom Hanks for people we've covered in the show so far. Let me put it
Just
that way.
disappears into the role.
Yeah. No,
Character
I
actor
just mean
extraordinaire, Bart the
in
Bear.
terms of width of like in terms of the breadth of his career.
He's really had quite the filmography. I wonder what they paid him in. 'Cause I mean, at this point, if he's a big star, like you got to be making the big bucks. Are they paying him in fish, salmon?
I think they're like salmon. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if bears get money. I think
Not money, but do you think like his first movie, they're like, we're gonna give Bart the Bear 5 salmon, and by Doctor Dolittle 2, they're like, he's commanding 3 crates of
yeah,
salmon.
yeah, yeah. He's like Robert Downey Jr. He's like, look, if you're making Doctor Dolittle 2, that last movie pulled in a lot of dough.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, this is just a very silly, fun family movie. So I don't have, a lot that you can really shit on for this movie. Like obviously it's not a movie that's gonna break new ground. It's not a movie that you're going to be like heralding as the next coming of cinema. But for what it is, it's an enjoyable 87 minutes that goes by very smoothly. And sometimes
Yeah.
you can't ask for more than that sometimes.
Yeah, I mean it gets in, it gets out, and it does its job. And the only thing I would say I didn't like is that the judge didn't let the weasel testify.
Yeah, we never got to see the weasel come in that because that would have been a very funny scene, I think.
Yeah, right. Like like the lawyer talking to the weasel in the courtroom. I'm bummed I didn't get to watch it, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, also, I think probably one of my favorite things about this movie that I didn't even mention is just the ending that all of the animals in the woods just decide, hey, if we
Oh
rise up
yeah.
together, we can stop them. But then it doesn't end at them. They just go put the word out. And then every animal in the world just decides
Yeah.
to go on strike and they just
Yeah.
like form a union. It's so funny. Like,
That's
we
like
stop
that
the
whole
builders, we form a union. It's
yeah.
so funny.
That whole scene when they're going to all the different animals, like they go to SeaWorld and like the lady's like, yeah, let's see if they'll come out for their food. And then like they're all just under the water, like shaking their heads no.
Like, I'm not going out there. I love it goes to the
Yeah.
dog park and they're all like, strike, strike. And then you see the one kid getting yanked on the ground by the dog.
Or like the cows refuse to give any milk.
Like they just know that they're like, we hone the means of production. Like,
Yeah, yeah. It's like, what are you guys gonna do if there's no milk, huh? Better save that forest.
immediately they're like, we got to come to the table here. And I love that it just
Oh,
ends in the courtroom, not in like the boardroom with
the
literally just
negotiations,
the
yeah.
negotiation with the animal and the raccoon just pisses on his. I don't think he like that.
Yeah. Which, by the way, we missed. Like, that's a great that guy, Michael Rappaport,
Yeah, which
plays
is
the raccoon.
such an inspired choice. That raccoon, like
Yeah,
that was perfect casting.
Sure, I got rabies. I could bite somebody, but I can only do so much.
Just it's so good, and that's what I think. Another thing that I enjoy about this movie too is that we've talked about it so much is that it's not afraid to be as silly as possible. The movie gets there, Archie, screws up. They blackmail him almost to a sense, or they set him up.
yeah,
And they're
yeah,
like, how are we gonna do this once we can't let the weasel go? And the answer to the end of the movie is completely out of left field. They're just like, we're gonna go on strike. It's like
yeah, yeah. And then yeah, they
hilarious.
finally get the deal they want. It was pretty crazy, like how Archie, he's like totally a loser. He's totally out. And he's like, I know what I gotta do. I gotta do something totally crazy that almost kills me to prove my love. It's like,
Yeah,
it's
right. You never actually see him own becoming a wild bear in the sense that he learns how to fend for himself and take care of like his pride of bears. He literally just gets out, goes, like climbs out onto that log to steal the beehive, and immediately she's just wet. She's like, yeah, this guy's the
yeah,
guy for me.
yeah. And I forget the boyfriend bear is like, oh man, forget that. And he just like runs off.
Yeah, he just
He's like
runs
so.
Like that guy's
It's so
crazy.
good. Yeah, and Archie's basically just saying, "I'm a real boy," because he did it. He's a real bear. He's the craziest bear in the woods,
He's
man.
a real bear now, man.
I just
Now,
thought it was funny. I just thought it was funny that that's like his plan though. He's like, well, everything else failed, so I'll just do something totally insane. Like,
it's exactly the type of movie that you would expect from us saying this for the people at home. If you're looking for a good, just fun 80 minutes of just silly puns and stupid animal humor, you could do a lot worse than Dr. Dolittle too.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Exactly. All right, Jim. I think we've really honed in on all the hilarious silliness of Dr. Dolittle 2. What do you say we get to that good old IMDb deep dive? So we're kicking it off with Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, let's start with Eddie Murphy.
You can go with this. You can go with that.
We'll save Bart the bear for the grand finale.
Got to save the real actor for a second. Sorry, Eddie Murphy. You're no Bart the Bear. You command
Yeah.
4 crates of salmon, Eddie Murphy? I don't think so.
No, not even close.
Bart the Bear still working? I hope he's still okay. I hope he's still alive. Is he
I
okay?
Bart the Bear, I believe, has passed away.
Oh, dude, gone too soon. I never saw him in the in memoriam at the Oscars. What the fuck? Terrible. Terrible.
Dr. Dolittle 2 or Beverly Hills Cop?
Beverly Hills Cop. That movie's a classic.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Yeah. What about Beverly Hills Cop 2? Where do you get off the Beverly Hills Cop train and then Dr. Dolittle wins? Or does it not win at all?
Dr. Dolittle 2 would win over Beverly Hills Cop 3.
It's madness. It's
Shut up.
madness.
Shut up. The one in the amusement park? Get out of here.
Grab your torch and pitchforks.
Hot takes, hot takes.
Yeah, that's a hot take, dude. I don't know. Beverly Hills Cop 3 is real good. All right, so we talked about Beverly Hills Cop. Dr. Dolittle 2 or The Nutty Professor?
Nutty Professor.
I'm gonna
put Dr.
Dr.
Dolittle. Really? All right. That's fair. I would put Dr. Dolittle 2 ahead of the second Nutty Professors. Clumps?
Okay.
That one.
Yeah, that's fair. Meet the Clumps, I think it's called.
Yeah. I think it's just called the Clumps. Meet the Clumps.
Isn't there one called Meet the Clumps? What's that? Am I just making that up?
Meet the Fockers? Meet the Spartans?
Oh yeah, maybe it's Meet the Fockers. Yeah.
Meet the
All
Clumps.
right. Dr. Dolittle 2 or Mulan?
Mulan's a classic.
Dr. Dolittle 2 or Dr. Dolittle 2 or Shrek? Dr. Dolittle 2 or Showtime?
Dr. Dolittle 2. That movie sucks.
You don't like Showtime?
Robert De Niro, right?
I think so. I haven't seen it in a hot minute. Let me click on it really fast.
It's like the actor, right? He's like shadowing the cop.
Yes, I think that's right. No, they're both cops. One of them is a cop on a reality TV show, though. That's what it is.
That's what it is. Fuck that movie.
Dr. Dolittle 2 or The Adventures of Pluto Nash?
Shut up. Why you even? Shut up.
What, you didn't watch Pluto Nash? Come on.
I did unfortunately watch Pluto Nash. Dr. Dolittle 2.
Dr. Dolittle 2 or The Haunted Mansion?
I like how you've just completely not even outside of Beverly Hills Cop, you haven't even mentioned early Eddie Murphy. You've really honed in on this awful mid 2000s era of Eddie Murphy here.
Oh, I could have said, yeah, okay, we'll rewind here. Dr. Dolittle 2 or Coming to America?
Yeah, there you go, bro. Coming to America, obviously. It's a classic. That might be my favorite Eddie Murphy movie.
What other early Eddie Murphy is there that I missed, dude?
There
Harlem
is.
Nights? Is that what you're thinking?
Harlem Nights. I actually have never seen that movie.
Oh, okay. 48 Hours. That's okay.
Yeah, 48 Hours.
48 Hours.
48 Hours. I would put Dr. Dolittle 2 ahead of another 48 Hours, the sequel. That movie sucks.
Agreed. Dr. Dolittle 2 or Trading Places?
Trading Places. That's a classic right there.
Yeah, look at that escargot. All right, I think I covered a good amount of the older ones now. Dr. Dolittle 2 or Life?
Life. That movie's so good.
That's such a crazy comparison, though. I don't even know what to say about
I don't even know how you can equate the two next to each other. Just completely opposite sides of the spectrum.
All right. Let's do one more, and then let's save some of the later Eddie Murphy for Shrek 2, if we want to do it then. Oh, see, there's so many more, though. Okay, hold on. Dr. Dolittle 2 or Daddy Daycare?
Shut up. Out of here with that shit. Dr. Dolittle 2.
Yeah, I'm taking Daddy Daycare, and I'm never looking back. Dr. Dolittle 2?
Right now with you.
Or I Spy.
Is that the one with Owen Wilson?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely.
Dr. Dolittle 2.
I'll take I Spy. I really dude, I'm underestimating how much I liked Eddie Murphy now that
you're especially mid 2000s Eddie Murphy. It seems like you're way in still.
Yeah, way in. When he started making like action comedies, I was on board for sure. But all right, I think that's gonna be it for Eddie Murphy. If I missed anything, you can leave a comment, let us know.
And we'll circle back for it when we get to Shrek 2.
Yeah. Let's move on to the real grand finale here.
Yeah,
Bart
give
the
me
Bear.
Art the Bear, baby. Let me
All
hear
right.
some of these fantastic credits that this just thespian provided us with.
So Dr. Dolittle 2 was his first movie. So keep that
Oh,
in mind.
really? Oh, okay. All right. Wow. Good debut.
Dr. Dolittle 2 or Without a Paddle.
Dr. Dolittle too. I haven't seen Without a Paddle in so long. We used to watch that all the time when we were in high school.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna take Dr. Dolittle 2 also. Dr. Dolittle 2 or Evan Almighty.
Oh my God, man, what a career this bear has had already.
Right? Dude, you don't
Dr.
even know
Dolittle, Dr. Dolittle too. That fucking movie's awful.
I'm gonna take Dr. Dolittle 2. Evan Almighty's the sequel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never even seen it.
Brutal.
Dr. Dolittle 2 or Into the Wild.
Oh, dude. See, this is where the bear starts to do more like serious fare. Like he made his early movies
Dude,
cutting his teeth. Now
he's
he gets
got range,
and now
bro.
he's got range, man. Into the Wild. Ooh, Into the Wild. That's a great movie.
Yeah, I'll take Into the Wild.
Good for this bear, man.
Dr. Dolittle 2 or Zookeeper.
Oh, that's it. He's got to see he makes one for him and then he makes one for the studio.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Exactly. He's gotta put in his work, you know? He's like, look, we got a zoo movie, Bart. We need you. All right, but as long as I get to do Into the Wild, more stuff like Into the Wild.
Like Barty Boy, of course. Boobala. Got you.
And you better keep the salmon coming, all right?
Like if I'm gonna be in Zookeeper, I'm gonna need
So
and listen to me.
Are you
5
taking
credits.
Zookeeper?
No, I'm not taking Zookeeper.
All right, I'm
Fuck
taking
out of
Dr.
here.
Dolittle 2. Yeah, you're right.
Doolittle too.
Dr. Dolittle 2 or We Bought a Zoo?
Dude. See, now he does one for him again.
Yeah,
Man,
yeah.
this bear's got range, man. We Bought a
Yeah,
Zoo.
that's what
That
I'm saying.
movie is delightful.
Yeah, I'll take We Bought a Zoo. That's good. All right, this is the last movie that's here that I've heard of. So this is what I'm going to say. I do have a couple more TV credits to add on at the end here, but you can't really do this or that with those. Dr. Dolittle 2 or Pete's Dragon?
This bear, man. I'm floored by this bear.
What a
Floored.
filmography, right?
This filmography is better than some actors ever get to
That's what I'm
do.
saying, man. Like,
My God. Pete's Dragon. That movie is also delightful.
I don't think I've ever seen the 2016.
It's the live action one, right?
Yes, yeah, it's
Obviously,
2016.
if he's yeah, no, that movie is delightful. I'd pick Pete's Dragon.
I'm gonna have to watch it, so
Come on, this
I'll get back to
bear,
you.
man.
So,
God,
hold on, we're not done.
Done too soon.
He has TV credits.
Of course he does.
He's got credit for an episode of CSI in 2005.
Dude, everyone cuts their teeth. Everyone cuts their teeth in TV, man. He gets his procedurals in.
Right. He's credited with one episode of Scrubs in 2006. He's credited with he gets out of the TV game for a little while here.
Well, that's
but
when he became a big star.
He gets back in with like a real primo credit. He gets a credit on one episode of Game of Thrones in 2013.
Oh, so he's in the Bear and the Maiden Fair.
I suppose he's credited as the Bear, so I imagine
he's the bear that Brienne fights.
Sure, he's Bart the Bear, dude.
Dude,
of course,
Bart,
you need a bear, you call Bart.
Dude, when I was watching that episode too, I was like, I know I've seen that bear somewhere.
Yeah,
that bear is that guy. Absolutely.
Yeah, he's probably the best that guy of all time. And much like that one actor who every movie he gets credited as Hector. I don't know if you're familiar with that guy.
The Latino guy, right? He's always like the gangbanger.
Like 50 credits, and every single one of them is Hector.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about.
The bear, like Bart the Bear, it just goes down down the line. He's like, oh, by the way, he does not play Archie the Bear. He plays one of the bear cubs at the end.
Oh, so he was young here.
Right, yeah.
No,
He
dude,
was
so
like
he's a
very
child
young.
actor.
Yeah. He's a child actor made good, dude. How many of those
Wow.
stories are
Yeah,
there?
right? Didn't fall to the
Wow.
pratfalls of the system, didn't get hooked on any
Seriously.
drugs or anything. Good on this bear,
Yeah.
man.
I mean, at least not that we know of. He did die
Yeah.
young. He died at 21. Rest in peace, Bart the
Oh,
Bear.
rest in peace, Bart the bear.
That's maybe
Gone
not too bad for a bear, though. I don't know.
way too soon. Yeah, I have no idea what the average life expectancy of a bear is, but that bear lived, damn it.
Yeah, and much like Hector, he's just like in 99% of these credits, he's either just Bear or the Bear.
Okay. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I know, right? Yeah, why not?
This
If
bear
Bart does
knew
one thing well, it's be a bear.
to be a bear. They're like, all right, Bart, for this role, I need you to really hone in on this character. I need you to be a bear. He's like, son of a bitch, I can do it. He's like, you came to the right bear.
That's maybe my favorite IMDb deep dive we've done. I'm like really happy with how that turned out.
Yeah, that's just a phenomenal, stellar career right there. Just fantastic work by Bart the Bear. But all right, we've done our deep dive. We dove into the movie. It is now time to turn to Jim's favorite portion of the movie, of the podcast, where Jim tells us his rating while at the same time contextualizing what he thinks I'm going to give it. So, Jim, roll our lovely man Ebert, and let's dive into our ratings.
I'm Roger Ebert. Been a scene from the best film of the decade. This is a great film.
All right, Jim, let's hear it. Final ratings for Dr.
right.
Dolittle 2.
So I've been raving about this movie for at least the last, 45 minutes or so.
You have. You very much have.
And I've been real worried for a long time, basically since we started doing this show, that we are going to screw up these ratings because we gave Rugrats way too good of a score, and something is going to like be way better than Rugrats and get totally screwed in this list, right?
You think this is going to be the movie that's going to come in lower than Rugrats?
I think we might have found the movie that at least breaks the scale. So I've been raving about this movie, dude, and I'm leaning in. If we're gonna break it, I'm gonna break it.
Oh,
I'm giving Dr. Dolittle 2 a 4 out of 5.
Oh my God. That is way an overcourse correction. You are really
I'm
going
breaking it, baby. I'm not messing
really
around.
going in on that.
This is a whole new philosophy.
So what's making you want to break so bad to give that? Because this is almost the inverse. Because you're saying that you're worried that we're going to give something that's going to have a score that's better, that a movie that's better than Rugrats becomes in lower than that. What makes you think Dr. Dolittle 2, if you didn't go for 4 stars, was going to come in lower than Rugrats? What do you think what is making you think that?
You're thinking about this all wrong. This is me shedding the burden of worrying about this list at all. This is me removing that off of my shoulders.
This is you taking off the shackles and accepting, I guess, being a little bit more liberal in your rating scales. Because I have noticed we have had movies where I've seen you give pretty solid points throughout the movie and then give it 2 stars.
Absolutely, yes.
So, okay, so you're shedding your fear of doing that.
I've been worrying about this for weeks, and I've been staring Dr. Dolittle down, looking at it, and you know what? I just had to embrace it. It was the only way through. We're gonna do this 1,000+ times when you count bonus episodes and like holiday episodes and whatever else we do. The list, it cannot survive. It will not survive. And the only thing to do is just say, I really enjoyed this movie. It made me laugh. I think it accomplished everything it was trying to accomplish. 4 out of 5.
I'm so proud to see you just let go of that boulder that's been weighing you down.
I feel great.
They can't see it at home, but I can see it, people. He in 2 seconds, he looks like a whole new man. It's 10 years have been taken, 10 years taken off this man's life right here. He looks 10 years younger.
And you know what? I don't know if we would have gotten here this fast without Rugrats. I've been fearing it this whole time, and really it was the key to my salvation.
Sometimes the biggest pain, just
Yeah,
need to shed it.
yeah.
So,
The night is always darkest before the dawn, TJ.
oh man. All right. So that is high praise from you, Jim. And I mean, I'm right there with you. I think this movie knew what it was setting out to do. Absolutely excelled in setting out and what it wanted to do. It was a fun, enjoyable family movie. Didn't outstay its welcome. Got in, got out, gave you exactly what you were hoping it would be, and was just an enjoyable way to spend 80 minutes. I'm not as insane to go the 4-star route, but I will give this a very healthy 3-star. I think this one is right, solid work, right down the middle of the line, right there. I think this is a 3-star movie, and I'll stand by that bad boy.
Yeah. So what does that get? Gets us a 7, yeah?
Oh yeah, so that puts Doctor Dolittle 2 at 7 out of 10. I think after Heather listens to this episode, she's going to want to murder both of us since Perfect Storm is at the bottom of the list with a 3.5,
Yeah,
and then we
well,
came around and gave Doctor Dolittle 2 a 7.
it's,
But hey, it's our
it's
list.
not my fault. The Perfect Storm was a real stupid movie.
Yeah, sorry, Heather. Doctor Dolittle. If she had cared enough to sit and watch Doctor Dolittle 2 with me, she might have known the majesty that was such a great family
Oh,
movie.
she didn't even watch it? Get out of here. She
No,
can't get it
no.
for our
When I
ratings
said
then.
when I said I had to watch Doctor Dolittle 2, she was immediately like, "Yeah, you have fun with that." She was not in for that whatsoever.
Yeah. Well,
All
her
right, so with a
loss.
7 out of 10, that we talked about 7 out of 10 being the what's going to end up being the median average
Ooh.
for these movies, and it is
Are
very
we gonna
much
have a
coming
little
to fruition.
tiebreaker here?
Oh yeah. So right now with a 7 out of 10, that puts it with 3 other movies also sitting at a 7 out of 10, which
Oh
are
boy.
How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Castaway, and Shrek. So now the question
Oh.
is we see how far high up it's going to go. So at the bottom of that one, at the 7 mark, is Shrek. Jim, do you take Shrek or Dr. Dolittle 2?
Oh man. I'm gonna
Jim,
take
this
Shrek.
isn't all right. I was gonna say, you're like, oh man, like Jim, this is an easy one. Dr.
No,
Dolittle
well,
2 is fun, but it should sit at the bottom of the sevens.
I'll take Shrek. I'll take Shrek.
I am also going to take Shrek. So that will put Dr. Dolittle 2 in the number 8th position right here, right
I
behind
do want to
Shrek.
say though, that
What?
was really hard.
Oh my God.
That
My
was
God.
really hard. I wanted to take Dr. Dolittle too. I couldn't do it.
Well, this is where it's going to be a funny one here because it sits right behind Shrek with a 7, sits just ahead of Armageddon with a 6.5.
Yeah, that's probably okay. That's fair. I
I know,
said I
it's
was
just
breaking it, dude. I told you it was broken.
you did, you did. So Doctor Dolittle 2 now sits above such classics as Armageddon, Star Wars Episode 1, The Mummy Returns, and X-Men.
Yeah, I've gone rogue, bro. I'm not messing around.
Honestly, those ones being low are your own damn fault because those are the ones where you were like still being cautious.
No, but I will stand by the fact that Doctor Dolittle 2 was a higher rated movie than a lot of those.
And hey, I stand by it too here. This, for me, obviously this list is just a fun little thing to do. Obviously, we don't take it so seriously, but it is always fun seeing where these things end up lying here and laughing at it after the fact. But I've got no problem with Dr. Dolittle 2 sitting here in this position right now. So I am much like you. I am totally okay with its placement right here
Yeah,
ahead
and
of
hey,
Armageddon.
if anybody has any problems with where I put Doctor Dolittle 2 on the list, you let me know where you would put it, huh? Let me know where you would put it.
Yeah, let us know down in the comments below where you would place Dr. Dolittle 2. But I dare you to try and watch that movie and not enjoy yourself. And that's all I have to say about that. Now, Jim, we turn our attention again to next week's episode. Next week is going to be an interesting one because, so this is going to be my hint for you.
Okay.
So next week's episode is a sequel to a movie that we've already done on the podcast. It's summer 2001.
I think we talked about it tonight, did we?
Did we?
A sequel to a movie we've already done on the podcast. Hold on. Hold, please. Is it X2?
No, it is not. We're in 2001.
I don't know. What year did X2 come out?
Three. I mean, the previous X-Men was literally the year before 2000. That would be a very quick turnaround.
Hmm. Oh, okay. I'm kind of hoping it's Attack of the Clones, but I think that it's actually going to be Jurassic Park 3.
It is Jurassic Park 3.
Nice,
We're
dude.
still a
Yes.
little ways away from Attack of the Clones. That's 2002, but that one is fast approaching. But yes, no, our first sequel that we will be, well, obviously we've done sequels, but our first time doing an episode and then doing the sequel to that movie. So
Yeah.
first time here on the pod, we will be diving into Jurassic Park 3, the much maligned Jurassic Park movie, probably the black sheep of the Jurassic Park movies. So it's going to be interesting to go back to that one. I don't think I've watched this one in a hot minute. I've watched it enough that I remember a good amount of the movie, but it's been long enough that it will be fun to revisit. What about you?
Yeah, I'm excited. We talked a little bit about one of maybe my favorite things to ever happen in a movie in the Lost World episode. We talked about it. So I'm real excited for this one. This is just peak levels of dumb, and I'm so pumped.
Yeah, like you want to talk about perfect early 2000s B moviness. This movie is at the top of the heap. And I think what I'm most excited for is the new addition to our soundboard of the Velociraptor saying, Alan,
Dude, you
because
stole. That was gonna be my sign off for the night. I was gonna be like, and it's the triumphant return of
what have
Alan.
I done? What have I done?
It's okay. It's okay. I finally thought of one after like 14 weeks.
And I stole it out from under him.
Yeah. But yeah, no,
But yeah,
that is absolutely making it to the soundboard. Yeah, I'm
so
already picking things out for this one. I'm so pumped.
yeah, this is one too that I told Heather she has to watch. This is the only Jurassic Park movie she hasn't seen. So I told her she has to watch this, or at least give it a shot. She's got to sit down and at
Yeah.
least give it 15 minutes, and then after that, she could
Dude,
fuck
and
off if she hates it.
when we did the Lost World, yeah, no, that's great. She needs to watch it for sure.
Yeah, I actually think
When
she'll
we
like it. I think that one's going to be right up her alley.
Yeah, when we did the Lost World episode, I watched the Lost World like a couple of times, and then I watched like the Lost World and then Jurassic Park 3 and then the Lost World and then Jurassic Park 3 like in like a day. I had them on in the background while I was doing all my chores. Uh so I've watched like large swaths of Jurassic Park 3 recently, and I'm going to watch it probably 2 more times before we do this episode. I'm so hyped.
So you heard it here, folks. This is going to be one that Jim is very, very excited to dive into. So be
We may
sure.
have our next 10, sir.
Oh boy, oh boy. There we go. So make sure you get your ass back here for next week's episode so you can hear all the Jim goodness as he dives into Jurassic Park 3. I won't ask you this week now for a sign out here, Jim, since I already unfortunately stole it from you.
Alan.
Alan, Alan. It's going to be a glorious one. But that will do it for all of us here at Front Row Cinema in this episode. Until next time, we'll see you at the movies.